Emily once again made a lame excuse about a work issue during our dinner and left halfway through. I didn't try to stop her, nor did I raise my voice. Instead, I calmly finished my meal, enjoying every single bite in complete silence. Later that evening, when I opened Facebook, I saw a post from her childhood friend, Lucas. It was a picture of Emily rolling up her sleeves, setting home-cooked dishes onto his dining table. The caption read, "Sudden stomach problems. Poor me." Luckily, Emily was kind enough to rush over and cook for me. Whenever I need you, you're always there. That's my confidence. In the past, a post like that would have sent me into a spiral of rage. I would have called her repeatedly, demanded explanations, and argued until my throat was sore. But this time, I didn't call her to yell or argue. Instead, I simply turned off my phone. After that night, I stopped opposing her whenever she left me behind to take care of her childhood friend. When she claimed she needed to go, I just gently said, "It's okay." A few days later, Lucas posted another picture, this time of the two of them playing a party game and sharing a pocky stick, their lips nearly touching. Once again, I had no reaction. Seeing my absolute silence and complete indifference, Emily finally panicked. Her eyes were red, her expression anxious and deeply wronged as she confronted me. "Why aren't you angry? Why aren't you fighting with me anymore?" When Emily received that call during our date, her steak had only been touched by 2 small bites. "There's an urgent work issue at the company," she said, reaching for her purse without looking me in the eye. "I need to go deal with it right away." I replied quietly. "Go ahead." I cut a small, neat piece of steak and put it in my mouth. Tender, juicy, and perfectly seasoned. I was quite satisfied with the food. Emily seemed caught off guard by my absolute calmness. She stood there for a moment, furrowing her brows in confusion. I'll bring you a gift when I come back," she promised awkwardly before hurriedly walking out. I finished my meal without rushing. I felt a mild sting of regret, but only because I hadn't expected our very last anniversary dinner together to end quite like this. When I got home, I opened Facebook and saw Lucas's new post. The photo showed Emily, tied in a cute apron, serving soup at his place. His caption was filled with subtle arrogance. "Sudden stomach problems. Poor me. Emily was kind enough to cook for me. Whenever I need you, you're always there. That's my confidence." I closed the app, turned off my phone, and went straight to bed. In the middle of the night, I heard the electronic lock chime as someone entered the house. I vaguely registered the sound, confirmed in my mind that it was Emily, and drifted back to sleep. Just before I lost consciousness again, I felt the faint sensation of someone standing beside the bed, staring down at me in the dark for a long time. The next morning, after washing up, I made breakfast and set it on the table. Emily came out of the bedroom into the dining room. She looked at the fresh sandwiches and glass of orange juice I had placed on the table, paused, and frowned. "Didn't you make my breakfast?" she asked. Emily disliked Western-style breakfasts, and in the past, I never felt like making 2 different kinds of meals in the morning. So, to cater to her tastes, I had spent years learning how to make traditional Chinese breakfasts for both of us. "I forgot," I said indifferently. "Just order takeout or grab something on your way to the office." I quickly finished my sandwich and stood up to get ready for work. When I looked up, I saw her face was dark with frustration. "I know you're mad at me for lying yesterday," Emily blurted out, her voice rising. "But that's only because you've been so difficult and jealous in the past. I was scared of how you'd react." "I'm not mad," I said flatly. "Lucas's stomach problems flared up yesterday," she continued defensively. "He lives alone in this city. I couldn't just leave him suffering. Please don't make a scene over nothing. I've told you 1,000 times. I only see Lucas as a brother. Why can't you just understand that?" "I really am not mad. All right?" I said. I couldn't help but raise my voice slightly, but when I saw her startled expression, I softened my tone. I understand, but I have to go to work now. We'll talk later. Without waiting for her reply, I picked up my briefcase and left the apartment. At the office, my boss called me into her private office to talk about my career. David, I want to persuade you one last time to reconsider the overseas transfer to Sweden, she said earnestly, leaning across her desk. This is a massive opportunity for your career. The compensation package is fantastic, and the work environment over there is top tier. Please, think it over again. She had tried to convince me several times before, highlighting the salary benefits and long-term promotion prospects. But every time I had hesitated and ultimately declined because I didn't want to leave Emily behind. I couldn't bear the thought of a long-distance relationship. But now, I raised my head, looking at the hopeful yet slightly disappointed expression on my manager's face. I've thought it over, boss, I said firmly. I'm willing to go. She was visibly delighted, and seeing her genuine smile lifted a massive weight off my chest. After work, I grabbed dinner by myself at a quiet restaurant. When I finally returned home, I was surprised to find Emily already sitting on the couch. That was a rare occurrence. Usually, she was out late. You're late, she said calmly, standing up and handing me a wrapped box. Happy anniversary gift. I blinked, taking the box with a polite, sheepish smile. Thank you. I forgot to buy your gift this time. Can I make it up to you later? Her expression immediately darkened. David, calm down and listen to me properly. I've told you many times before, Lucas and I grew up together. It wasn't easy for him to move to this city on his own, and I promised his parents back home that I'd look after him. She sounded deeply aggrieved, but I felt entirely detached. Don't get worked up, I said softly. I understand. Just say whatever you want to say. Don't act like this, she snapped, her frustration boiling over. I've told you so many times. Lucas and I only have sibling-like feelings for each other. Why can't you just believe me? Think about it logically. If I really wanted to be with him, why would I be with you? I tried to reassure her with a neutral tone. Calm down. I'm really not angry. I do believe that you and Lucas are just like siblings. You! Emily choked on her breath, her chest heaving as she stared at me in disbelief. After a tense silence, she forced out, I'm hungry. Sorry, I replied. I already ate outside. You can order takeout or cook something yourself. There are plenty of ingredients in the fridge. What followed was the loud, violent slam of the front door as she stormed out. Just as I was getting ready to sleep, Emily returned. She walked into the bedroom, her hair damp, staring at me intently. It's raining outside, she said, her voice trembling slightly. Well, why don't you dry your hair or take a hot shower? I suggested politely. She was indeed soaked, but I didn't understand why she was telling me this with such expectation. In complete disbelief, she said, I didn't bring an umbrella. I've been wandering outside in the rain for 5 whole hours. It's freezing out there. Aren't you even a little worried about me? She took a step closer, her voice cracking. You were never like this before. Whenever we argued in the past, you would call me nonstop, or call my friends to check if I was safe. At the very least, you would leave the living room lights on and sit up, waiting for me to come home. But tonight, I was gone for 5 hours, and you didn't call me even once. I looked at her and spoke gently. I didn't contact you because you're an adult now, Emily. You know how to take care of yourself. Plus, I didn't want to embarrass you again by annoying your friends with phone calls about your whereabouts. Emily's expression completely froze. She must have remembered what she had screamed at me a year ago during a previous argument. Back then, after she had stormed off, I frantically called everyone she knew for hours, terrified something terrible had happened to her. When I finally found her, instead of appreciation, I was met with her furious scolding. Are you crazy? I'm an adult. Stop suffocating me and embarrassing me in front of my friends with your obsessive calls. I didn't want to dig up old arguments, though. I was simply too exhausted, and with all the preparations for my upcoming transfer to Sweden, I didn't have the mental energy for emotional drama. Okay, I said quietly. You should go take a shower so you don't catch a cold. I turned around and lay back down in bed. Thinking about the work projects I needed to hand over before my flight, it took me a while to drift off. In my half-asleep state, I felt a soft hand gently touch my face. Then I heard a long, heavy sigh, and the mattress sank beside me as she crawled into bed. Over the next few days, Emily seemed genuinely upset. She started coming and going at odd hours, leaving early in the morning and coming back late at night, deliberately avoiding me and sending 0 text messages. It was clearly a Cold War, but I actually found the silence remarkably peaceful. I had no intention of breaking it. However, after 5 days of Cold War, she unexpectedly messaged me first. I'll cook dinner tonight. Come straight home after work. I was genuinely surprised when I read her message. In our 3 years together, it had always been me doing all the cooking. I remembered how, in the beginning, I had cut my fingers and burned my wrists learning complex recipes just to suit her palate. Once, when I was exhausted from work, I had pouted and asked her to cook just one meal for us. Back then, she had simply hugged me and murmured, "My cooking skills are non-existent, babe. I'd probably give you food poisoning. Besides, I just love eating the delicious meals you make for me." Blinded by love, I had taken her words as a sweet compliment. It wasn't until months later, when Lucas casually mentioned how amazing Emily's home-cooked meals were, that I realized the truth. I had been living in a sweet illusion. When I had confronted her back then, she had responded with total coldness. Lucas doesn't know how to cook, and his stomach is sensitive. I couldn't let him keep eating unhealthy takeout. He's not like you. You can digest anything. I'm just taking care of my childhood friend. You're a grown man, David. Stop expecting people to cater to you all the time. If you think cooking for me is such a burden, then don't do it. After that argument, I had swallowed my pride and forgiven her after her insincere apology. As the saying goes, when you're madly in love, your brain is full of water. Reading her text message now, I simply replied, "Okay." When I opened the apartment door that evening, Emily called out from the kitchen, "David, wash your hands and sit down. The food will be ready in a minute." I sat at the dining table, feeling a strange sense of detachment. If she had done this a few months ago, I would have been overjoyed. She soon brought out 4 dishes and a hot bowl of soup. Though the dishes were light, one taste proved that she was indeed an exceptional cook. "David," she said softly, leaning her chin on her hand, a slight tinge of grievance in her voice. "Why haven't you talked to me for so many days? Whenever we had a Cold War before, you'd always be the first to reach out and make up. But this time, you ignored me for 5 whole days." I swallowed my food before answering. "I thought you needed some personal space." We fell silent. After a moment, she added carefully, "That night, I only cooked for Lucas because he missed dinner due to his stomach flare-up. I'm going to teach him how to cook simple meals soon, so I won't have to keep going over there." "Okay," I replied vaguely, continuing to eat quietly. I didn't want to trigger another argument. "By the way," she said, her eyes suddenly lighting up with hope, "how about this month's group gathering? Why don't you come with me?" I looked up at her in surprise. Emily had taken me to casual gatherings with her acquaintances before, but we both knew that what she was referring to now was her exclusive, monthly inner circle gathering. That monthly dinner was strictly reserved for her tight-knit group of childhood friends. No spouses, partners, or outsiders allowed. In the past, I had begged her to let me join so I could integrate into her life. The first time I asked, she brushed me off. When I pressed further, she exploded in anger. "David, are you doing this on purpose? Can't you stop being so suffocatingly clingy? It's driving me crazy." I told you. This is a private monthly get-together for my oldest friends. Why do you constantly need to invade my personal space? And yet, despite her strict no outsiders rule, she had brought Lucas to every single one of those gatherings. When I had flipped the table in fury over her double standard, she had coldly stated, "Lucas grew up with all of us. He knows everyone there. He's not an outsider. Besides, he doesn't have any other friends in this city, and I'm just trying to keep him from feeling lonely. Stop acting like an insecure, paranoid lunatic." Remembering that explosive fight, I was stunned that she was now inviting me. However, with all my preparations for moving overseas to Sweden, my schedule was packed. I politely declined. Work has been extremely busy lately, so I think I'll skip it this time. Clatter. Emily slammed her chopsticks down on the table, her face weary and irritated. "David, I know you've been bitter about Lucas," she sighed heavily, "and I've been walking on eggshells trying to accommodate you these past few days. But I'm exhausted too. I've lowered my pride enough for you. What more could you possibly want? You're 28 years old. Stop acting like a spoiled child throwing a tantrum." "You're misunderstanding," I said calmly, looking her in the eyes. "Work really is just that busy right now." "Fine. Whatever," she snapped stiffly. We finished the rest of the dinner in complete oppressive silence. In the end, Emily took Lucas to the monthly gathering instead. That evening, an unexpected bug crashed one of our major company projects. Even though I was preparing to leave the company soon, I stayed late at the office alongside my team to help fix the code. During a late-night coffee break, I checked my phone and saw a notification on Facebook. It was a post from Lucas. In the photo, he and Emily were sitting close together, both smiling sweetly as they shared opposite ends of a Pocky stick. His caption read, "Haha, the group forced us into this game punishment. They're pranking me and Emily again. I really hope David won't mind." I let out a faint chuckle and casually typed a reply under his post. "No problem. I don't mind at all." Then, I muted my phone notifications and went straight back to debugging code. By the time we resolved the issue and I wrapped up my work, it was past midnight. Unmuting my phone, I saw dozens of missed calls and frantic text messages from Emily. "David, it was just a stupid party game punishment." I broke the stick off right away. Our lips didn't even touch. "Please reply to me, David, please." Just then, a coworker called out that a group of us were grabbing a late-night bite at a diner nearby. I agreed to join them. But as I walked out of the office lobby, I saw Emily standing under the streetlights, shivering in the cool night air. "Are you guys finished already?" I asked, surprised. Her group gatherings usually lasted until the early hours of the morning. "I left early," she said, running over to me, her eyes red and tear-stained. It felt surreal, like the sun rising in the west. "What about Lucas?" I asked. "I dropped him off at his apartment," she explained quickly, reaching for my hand. "I came here to see you." "I'm going to have late dinner with my coworkers," I said, pulling my hand back gently. "You should head home." "It's fine. I'll wait for you in the car," she insisted desperately. I knew I couldn't enjoy a meal with my team while she sat outside in a dark parking lot. So, I excused myself from my coworkers, apologized for canceling, and walked back to her car. As I got into the passenger seat, Emily looked at me anxiously. You're really not angry about the photo Lucas posted? You were just playing a game," I said evenly. "I'm not that petty." Emily opened her mouth, a look of profound sadness filling her eyes. I couldn't help but remember a similar incident a year ago. A mutual friend had posted a video of Emily and Lucas taking shots together at a bar, leaning dangerously close. Back then, I had gone wild with rage. I called her over a dozen times until she blocked my number. When she finally came home, instead of reassuring me, she scolded me ruthlessly, telling me my mind was filthy, and suggesting I needed to see a therapist for my jealousy. Now, looking at her distressed face, I didn't feel a single flicker of emotion. My heart was completely numb. "Let me take you to get something to eat," she offered softly, quickly changing the subject. I didn't feel like having a sit-down meal, so I mentioned a local night market spot nearby. There's a food stall near here that serves snail noodles and stinky tofu. I've been craving it. Okay, Emily said instantly. You can eat it right in the car. I don't mind. I was caught off guard. Was this really the same Emily who suffered from severe, compulsive car cleanliness OCD? 2 years ago, when I was rushing to work and ate a slice of sandwich in her passenger seat, a few tiny breadcrumbs fell onto the floor mat. She had thrown a massive tantrum, pulled over on the highway shoulder, and spent 20 minutes lecturing me about respecting her property. I ended up getting out of her car, taking a taxi to work, and arriving extremely late. That was one of the very few times I had tried to stand up for myself, but she had defended her obsession so fiercely that I eventually blamed myself and promised never to eat in her car again. Yet a few months ago, I watched Lucas eat greasy potato chips and spicy snacks in her passenger seat, leaving crumbs everywhere while she just smiled fondly. When I had confronted her about the blatant double standard, she had snarled, "Lucas has stomach issues and needs to eat frequently. He has the privilege of eating in my car. You don't. You're an outsider here, got it?" That argument had nearly broken us up. "David?" Emily's voice brought me back from my memory. She had already parked near the food street. "Just wait here. I'll go buy it for you." A few minutes later, she returned carrying steaming takeout containers of pungent snail noodles and stinky tofu. "Eat it while it's hot," she said, handing the bag to me with a forced, eager smile. "I'll wait until we get home," I said, holding the bag carefully. "The smell is very strong." "It's fine. Really, eat it now," she urged frantically. I was hungry, so I ate the food quietly while she parked. When I finished, I gathered the empty containers into the plastic bag and looked around for a trash can outside. Before I could open the door, Emily suddenly reached over, grabbed the trash bag from my hands, and gave it a sharp tug. In the process, a splash of leftover hot broth spilled directly onto her pristine leather seat, the seat she meticulously conditioned every single week. I stared at her in utter shock. "What are you doing?" Emily looked at me with wild, desperate eyes, tears brimming at the edges. "You can eat whatever you want in my car from now on," she cried out, her voice trembling violently. "It doesn't matter if you spill anything or make a mess. From now on, David, you are the only one with that privilege. Lucas won't ever be allowed to eat in here again." I stared at her, genuinely thinking she had lost her mind. After a long, uncomfortable pause, I sighed softly. "It's late, Emily. Just drive us home so you can rest." That night, as we lay in bed, Emily wrapped her arms around my torso and buried her face against my chest. "David? Let's talk properly, please," she whispered, softly. I frowned, feeling uncomfortable with the physical closeness, and began searching for an excuse to gently push her away. Right at that moment, her phone on the nightstand illuminated and began to ring loudly. The caller ID displayed a single name. Lucas. Emily froze instantly. She looked at the ringing phone, then looked at me, her expression torn with panic. Seeing her conflicted face, I almost wanted to laugh. "Go ahead and answer it," I said calmly. "It might be urgent." She nervously swiped to answer and put it on speaker. "Lucas? What's wrong so late?" "Emily." Lucas's voice came through the speaker, sounding weak and pained. "My stomach is burning again. It hurts so bad." Emily glanced at me nervously and forced a firm tone. "If it's that bad, call 911. It's not convenient for me to come over right now." I tried, but I'm feeling dizzy." "Emily, please, I'm scared," Lucas whimpered softly. "Is it really unbearable?" Emily's resolve instantly dissolved. "Okay, stay calm. I'll come right over." She hung up the phone and turned to me, her eyes filled with frantic apology. "David, Lucas might really be in danger this time. I have to go check on him. I swear I'll come back as soon as I know he's okay." "You know he's my childhood friend, I understand," I interrupted smoothly, pulling the blanket over my shoulders. It's fine. Go ahead. Emily stared at me, her mouth opening and closing, as if she wanted me to fight her, to forbid her from going. But seeing my cold, serene face, she didn't realize that. By rushing out to him again, she had just proven that all her previous promises were complete lies. "I'll be back as soon as I can," she whispered, trembling, before fleeing the room. When the front door clicked shut, I closed my eyes and fell into a deep, undisturbed sleep. When I woke up the next morning, the apartment was completely empty. Emily hadn't returned all night. I felt no disappointment whatsoever. It was entirely within my expectations. Since I had the day off from work, I decided to spend my remaining time in the city doing some shopping and organizing my affairs. Around noon, while I was out at the mall, my phone rang. It was Emily. "David, I'm so sorry about last night." Her voice rushed through the receiver, frantic and breathless. When I got to Lucas's place, his pain had eased up. But it was so late and I was worried he'd relapse, so I stayed. But I swear I slept on the living room couch. Nothing happened, I swear. I replied neutrally. "I understand. Don't worry about it." "No, listen to me," she begged, her voice rising in desperation. "I talked to Lucas this morning. I told him that from now on, I'm keeping my distance from him. He admitted he was wrong for relying on me too much. He wants to take us both out to a nice lunch to apologize properly to you and give us final closure. Please, David, can we just have this one meal with him?" I thought about it for a second. My flight to Sweden was scheduled for that evening. Having a final, clear endpoint face-to-face seemed like a clean way to close this chapter of my life. "All right," I agreed. "Set the time and place." To my surprise, the day she scheduled the closure lunch was the exact same day I was flying abroad. Fortunately, the lunch was set for noon, which meant I would still have plenty of time to catch my evening flight. That morning, I finished my final paperwork at the office and bade farewell to my colleagues. "David, are you sure you're okay leaving for Sweden for 3 whole years without your girlfriend objecting?" One of my close co-workers joked as we packed my desk. "We won't be long distance," I replied with a faint smile. "We're breaking up today." My coworkers were shocked, but sensing the seriousness in my voice, they respectfully refrained from prying further. At 11:30 a.m., Emily picked me up outside my office building to drive us to the restaurant. To my surprise, she drove us to a high-end, authentic Sichuan restaurant. In the past, Emily had strictly forbidden me from eating oily, spicy Sichuan food, claiming it was terrible for health and hygiene. The fact that she had chosen this specific restaurant proved that she had always known exactly what my culinary preferences were. She had simply chosen to ignore them for 3 years. When we stepped into the private dining room, Lucas was already waiting. The moment he saw Emily, he immediately stood up, stepped forward, and pulled her into a warm bear hug. Emily panicked instantly, pushing him away forcibly, and glancing nervously at me. Lucas just grinned casually, waving his hand. "Oh, come on, Emily. We've been hugging like this since we were 5 years old. David has seen it before. He doesn't mind." Emily's face turned pale. She turned to Lucas with unprecedented severity. "Lucas, we are adults now, and there are proper boundaries between men and women. This kind of behavior is completely inappropriate." Lucas shrugged, smirking slightly. All right. I forgot you're always biased toward your boyfriend." I didn't say a word. I simply pulled out a chair and sat down calmly. In the past, seeing them interact like that would have set my blood on fire and started an immediate shouting match. Now, watching them, I felt like a spectator watching a mediocre play. My heart didn't stir in the slightest. Noticing my absolute lack of reaction, the smirk on Lucas's face faltered slightly. He sat down across from me, adopting a surprisingly humble posture. "David, I really want to sincerely apologize to you," Lucas said, pouring tea into my cup. "I was careless in the past. Even though I know you're a generous guy, I shouldn't have disturbed Emily so much. From now on, I won't bother her anymore. I'll leave her completely in your care." Emily sighed softly, her tone softening toward him. "It's not that dramatic, Lucas. If you ever have a real emergency, you can still reach out. David isn't that petty." I ignored Lucas's performance entirely. I picked up the menu, flagged down the waiter, and ordered two of my absolute favorite spicy dishes: boiled fish in chili oil and spicy diced chicken. Then, I handed the menu across the table. Lucas looked at the dishes I ordered and gasped in exaggerated shock. "David, both of those dishes are insanely spicy," Lucas chided, looking at me disapprovingly. "Emily has a sensitive stomach and hates spicy food. How could you order that? Look at how good Emily is to you. She catered to your tastes even though it ruins her stomach. Just like me, she can only handle mild food." I replied smoothly, taking a sip of water. "It's fine. She doesn't like spicy food, but I do." Lucas clearly hadn't expected me to be so brutally blunt. He choked on his words, momentarily speechless. To prove how well he knew Emily, Lucas quickly took the menu and ordered 3 non-spicy dishes: stir-fried cabbage, roast duck, and a crispy chicken cutlet. "Hey, Emily," Lucas said with a triumphant smile. "See? I'm still the one who remembers what your stomach can handle. I'm always thinking of you when I order." He then turned to me with a condescending grin. "David, don't overthink it, okay? I'm just looking out for Emily's health." I took another sip of tea. "It's fine. I'm not overthinking anything." Emily's face grew increasingly dark and uncomfortable. "All right, let me just call the waiter to bring out the drinks." When the waiter arrived, he politely informed us that the specialty fruit juice I had requested was out of stock. Before the waiter could offer a substitute, Emily abruptly stood up. "I'll go to the supermarket across the street and buy it for you," she said hurriedly, leaving her purse and phone on the table as she rushed out of the room. The moment the door closed behind Emily, the humble, apologetic smile on Lucas's face vanished instantly, replaced by a sneer. "David, now that Emily isn't here, I'm going to speak frankly," Lucas said, leaning back in his chair and crossing his arms. "I think you're being incredibly selfish. Ordering super spicy food without even considering Emily's delicate stomach? Isn't it a boyfriend's job to treasure and protect his girl? I'm younger than you, and even I know basic consideration. Seeing how cold you are to her, I honestly don't feel safe leaving her in your hands." I sat back, looking at him with mild amusement. I couldn't even be bothered to remind him that for the past 3 years, I had been the one constantly compromising and catering to her every single whim. Click. The dining room door opened. Emily stood in the doorway, holding a bottle of fresh juice. Her face was deathly pale. She had clearly heard Lucas's entire arrogant speech from outside. Lucas turned around, oblivious to her expression. "Oh, Emily, what are you looking at behind me? Do I have something on my—" "Lucas, you are overstepping your boundaries." Emily's voice was ice cold as she walked in, slamming the bottle onto the table. Lucas panicked, standing up abruptly. "Emily, you misunderstood. I was just telling David to take better care of you. I don't need you to tell my boyfriend how to treat me." Emily shouted, her eyes blazing with fury. "Don't forget why you came here today. You came to apologize, not to make my life harder. I can take care of my own relationship." This was a scene that had played out between me and her 100 times over the years. But today, for the very first time, she was directing that fierce hostility at Lucas, the man who had always been placed first in her life. Lucas stared at her in utter shock and embarrassment. "Fine, I see I'm not welcome here. I'm leaving." He grabbed his jacket and hurriedly fled the private room. I pointed toward the open door. "Aren't you going to chase after him?" "No need," Emily said tightly, sitting down across from me. "He's a grown man. Nothing's going to happen to him." "Let me pour your drink." She had completely forgotten that she was supposed to be buying that drink for me. We ate a few bites in silence, when suddenly, her phone on the table began to vibrate. The screen flashed. Lucas. Emily picked it up, hit decline, and placed the phone face down. 2 seconds later, it rang again. She declined it again. The phone rang a third, fourth, and fifth time with relentless persistence. The loud buzzing was starting to draw glances from waiters outside the glass door. Just answer it, I suggested calmly. What if it's an actual emergency? It's fine, she said nervously, her hands trembling. It's always minor stuff with him. He wouldn't call if it were actually important. Your phone keeps ringing, I noted. It's disturbing the rest of the restaurant. Reluctantly, Emily swiped the screen and put the phone to her ear. Lucas, what could you possibly want now? Because the room was quiet, Lucas's loud, pathetic voice leaked clearly through the receiver. Emily? I'm so sorry to bother you again. But when I left the restaurant, I realized I ran out of mobile data, and my digital wallet has no funds. I can't pay for my taxi home, and none of the drivers will accept cash. I don't know how to get back. The voice sounded desperately pitiful. Emily froze, her eyes wavering with intense hesitation as she looked at me. I watched her with genuine fascination. After a long struggle, Emily stood up, her face filled with deep guilt. David, I promise you, this is absolute, 100% the last time. I won't get involved with him ever again after this. She stepped toward me, leaning down in an attempt to kiss my cheek as reassurance. I casually turned my head away, letting her lips hit thin air. Seeing my avoidance, her eyes filled with tears. David, please? Go quickly, I said smoothly. It'll be bad if he's stranded out there. Wait for me here. I'll pay his taxi fare and come straight back, she begged, before running out of the restaurant like a fugitive escaping a crime scene. I was left sitting alone at the table full of barely touched food. At the adjacent table, a group of young college students, who had been watching the entire drama, finally couldn't hold back. Hey, bro, one of the young guys spoke up sympathetically. You really shouldn't trust that girl. She's playing you. His friends nodded in fierce agreement. Yeah, man, you deserve way better than that. I couldn't help but laugh out loud, touched by the genuine concern of total strangers. Thanks for the advice, guys. I know exactly what I'm doing. I signaled the waiter and paid the bill in full. When asked if I wanted to pack the leftovers, I shook my head. No thanks. I have a flight to catch. I took a taxi straight back to our apartment. Moving quickly, I grabbed the heavy suitcase I had packed days ago. To avoid her suspicion earlier, I had told her I was just sorting through seasonal clothes to donate. I swept through the apartment one last time, removing every single trace of my existence. My mug, my toothbrush, my books, my clothes. On the coffee table in the living room, I laid down the apartment keys alongside the unopened anniversary gift box she had given me days ago. I stood at the doorway, looked at the quiet, empty living room, and murmured softly, "Goodbye, Emily." Then, I closed the door and headed straight to the international airport. While sitting in the departure lounge, waiting for my evening flight, I pulled out my phone, typed a final, concise breakup text to Emily, and hit send. Immediately after, I blocked her phone number, her social media accounts, and Lucas's contacts on everything. The moment I tapped block, an overwhelming wave of relief washed over me. It felt as though 3 years of suffocating toxicity had instantly evaporated, leaving my mind completely clear and full of hope. Attention passengers, boarding for Flight 892 to Stockholm. Sweden is now beginning at Gate 14. I stood up, pulling my carry-on bag behind me. David! A sharp, hysterical voice echoed across the terminal. I turned around and saw Emily sprinting through the crowd toward me. Her hair was messy, her clothes disheveled, and tears were streaming wildly down her face, a complete contrast to her usual composed appearance. She reached me, grabbing my arm with trembling hands, her breath coming in ragged gasps. David, I really did come back right away, she sobbed hysterically. But when I got back to the restaurant, you were gone. I ran home, and all your things were missing. I called your office, and your coworkers told me you were flying to Sweden today. Why didn't you tell me you were leaving the country? I actually tried to bring up the Sweden transfer to you several times over the past few weeks, I said, looking at her with absolute tranquility. But every single time, you were too busy dealing with something urgent. Emily choked on her tears, knowing instantly what those urgent things were. I won't ever talk to Lucas again. I swear it, she shrieked, clutching my hands tightly. I'll block him right now in front of you. I'll cut all ties. Just please don't leave me, David. Give me one more chance. I looked at her desperate, tear-stained face with mild pity. Emily, if you can answer just one question correctly, I'll consider staying. Her eyes instantly lit up with frantic hope. Ask me! Anything! I looked into her eyes and spoke softly. Can you name a single holiday, birthday, or anniversary that we have spent together since Lucas moved to this city? The frantic words died in Emily's throat. Her eyes widened in sheer horror. She opened her mouth to answer, but her mind went completely blank. Valentine's Day? Christmas? Our anniversaries? My birthdays? Every single one of those dates had been interrupted or completely abandoned because Lucas had an emergency, a stomach flare-up, or needed company. Not a single one was left for us. The hopeful light in her eyes shattered, replaced by a dark, agonizing despair. Her grip on my arm slowly loosened. You're never going to forgive me, are you? She whispered, her voice breaking completely. Emily, let's just part ways on decent terms, I said gently. With trembling hands, she reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a small velvet box, the anniversary gift I had left behind on the coffee table. At least take this, she sobbed, holding it out with both hands. Please, just as a keepsake. I gently pushed her hands back. Don't hold on to the past, Emily. Look forward. And if you meet someone else in the future, don't make the same mistakes again. Final boarding call for Flight 892 to Stockholm. Goodbye, Emily, I said. I turned around, handed my boarding pass to the gate agent, and walked down the jet bridge. Behind me, I heard her collapse into loud, heartbroken weeping, but I didn't turn back, not even once. Ahead of me lay a bright, fresh new beginning.